Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this regular meeting to order at 4 p.m. Council, any additions or deletions to today's agenda? Administration? Seeing that, I'll entertain a motion. Councillor Nelson.
I'll move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Council, we have a motion on the floor. I'll call the question. All those in favor? That was passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Council, we have minutes for adoption. I will entertain a motion. Councillor Race.
I'm just calling it up right now. Just 1 minute, please. Here we go. I would like to move that we adopt the minutes for a regular meeting of council for March 17th, 2020, standing committee of March 24th, 2020, and special meeting of council April 7th, 2020.
Thank you, Councillor Race. We have a motion on the floor, and I'll call to question. All those in favor? That was passed unanimously. That brings us to our action items for this evening. We have 7. The first one is amendment to business license bylaw 1126. CEO Olson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Business license bylaw 1126 requires an amendment to remove duplicate regulations related to cannabis business license requirements that are covered under the Town of Hinton Land Use Bylaw, as well as provincial jurisdiction through the Gaming, Liquor and Cannabis Act, as well as the Gaming, Liquor and Cannabis Regulation. This item was brought to the Standing Committee meeting of March 24th, where the committee recommended council give all 3 readings to the bylaw amendment. Ghana is present to assist in answering any questions.
Thank you, CEO Olson. Council, any questions? If not, I could entertain. Councillor Nelson.
I'd like to move that council give first reading of business bylaw 1126-1.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Council, we have a motion on the floor now. Would anyone like to speak to that? We can go back on that. Okay, Council, any further debate? And seeing none, I'll call to question. Council give first reading to the business of bylaw 1126-1. Council, all those in favor? That was passed unanimously. Council, anything further for this action item? Would you like to go to Councilor Magoon?
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to make the motion that council gives second reading of business license bylaw 1126.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Council, we now have a motion on the table. Anyone would like to speak to that? And seeing none, I'll call to question. All those in favor? My apologies. Okay, that was passed unanimously. Council, I will entertain another motion if that is the will of council. Councillor Haas.
I'd like to move that the council give unanimous consent for third reading of business bylaw number 1126-1.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, any further debate, questions for administration? And seeing none, I'll call to question. All those in favor? Again, that was passed unanimously. And CEO Olson, we have one more correction. I just want to confirm. Okay, Council, is there an appetite for another motion? Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to move the council give third reading of business license bylaw 1126-1.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Council, we have a motion on the floor. I'll speak to it very quickly. I know we did last time when it came to standing, but thank you, administration, for making these changes. I think anytime we have new policies, especially those who are downloaded from provincial government, and then we have to make them work for our community, there's going to be some changes needed, and changes have been done. And looks like everyone is very happy with that. So thank you very much. And if seeing no other debate, I will call to question that council gives third reading for business bylaw 1126-1. Council, all those in favor? And that was passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Council, anything further for this action item? And seeing none, we will move to the second action item for this evening. Rescind development services policy COs.
Your worship. The Development Services Division has undergone a review of policies to ensure relevance, consistency, and to ensure that they're not duplicated in other policies or bylaws. To this end, administration is recommending that the following policies be rescinded. Number 46, development deposit. Number 9, residential land development tax credit. Number 61, building permit plans. Number 91, municipality and land development. Number 94, waiver of development permit application fees. These policies were reviewed at the March 24th standing meeting. Our committee recommended council sending all of the aforementioned policies. Administration, again, Mr. Van is here via Zoom, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have today.
Thank you, CEO Olson. Council, any questions, directions for this action item? Councilor Nelson.
I would like to move that council rescind policy number 046, development deposit. And if I could speak to it, I'll only speak once to all these. I'm really looking forward to a time where all of the policies and bylaws we have are relevant and current, and we don't have a bunch of backlogged old ones that don't play any part. It would make everyone's life a lot easier, and I'm really appreciative of the work that's been done so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Nelson. Council. My apologies. Was there any direction thus far? Okay, my apologies. I was speaking to Olson. Okay, council, we have a motion on the floor that council rescind policy 46, development deposit. Any debate? And seeing none, I'll call to question that council rescind policy number 46, development deposit. Council, all those in favor? That was passed unanimously. Council, I would entertain another motion or questions. Councilor Waugh.
I move that committee recommend sorry about that. That council rescind policy number 49, residential land development tax.
Thank you, Councilor Waugh. Council, we have a motion on the floor. Any questions or debates? And seeing none, I'll call to question that council rescind policy 49, residential land development tax credit. Council, all those in favor? That is passed unanimously. Council, once again, any direction? Councilor Hawes.
I'd like to make the motion that we rescind policy number 061, building permit plans.
Thank you, Councilor Hawes. Council, again, we have the motion on the floor. Any debate? Seeing none, I'll call to question that council rescind policy 61, building permit plan. Council, all those in favor? That is passed unanimously. Again, council, will entertain a motion. Councilor Magoo.
Thank you. I'd like to move that council rescind policy number 091, municipality in land development.
Thank you, Councilor Magoo. Council, once again, we have a motion on the floor. Any debate, questions regarding this? And seeing none, I'll call to question that council rescinds policy 91, municipality and land development. Council, all those in favor? That is passed unanimously. And I'm entertaining another motion. Councilor Rees.
I'd like to move that council rescind policy number 094, waiver of development permit application fees.
Thank you, Councilor Race. Council, we have a motion on the floor. And I'll speak quickly to the overall motion as Councilor Nelson alluded. I think I speak for all the council. Thank you, administration, for cleaning up something that we've been yearning for quite a while, and it makes things much cleaner. So, as Councilor Nelson said, thank you very much. Any further debates? And seeing none, I'll call the question that Council rescind policy 94, waiver of development permit application fees. Council, all those in favor? And that is passed unanimously. Council, anything further for this action item? And seeing none, thank you for that. Third action item is asset management policy DS 6100 amendment. CAO Olson.
Thank you, Worship. So I'll try speaking up and towards the microphone. I understand there's a little bit of an issue with audio coming through. So please, at the end, just let me know through the comments whether that has improved. The asset management policy was approved by Council in May 2019 and required a review through the development of an asset management strategy, which is a high-level document that administration had been preparing to guide how the asset management policy would be implemented. Through this review, some amendments are required to one to two documents. At the March 24th Standing Committee meeting, the amended policy was received by Council, and the committee recommended Council approve the amended asset management policy PB 6100 as presented. This is again the recommended action for tonight. Mr. Van is here. Should anyone have any questions as well? Hopefully that came through a little bit better for you guys.
Thank you, CAO Olson. Council, any questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain direction. Councilor Haas.
Yeah, I'd like to move that council approve the amended asset management policy DS 6100 as presented, please.
Thank you, Councilor Haas. Council, we now have a motion on the floor.
If I could speak to it?
Absolutely, Councilor Haas.
Yeah, I just, again, I want to express the progression forward with this asset management, and especially during, been thinking a lot about it lately during these times that we're in right now, and we're going to have some very difficult decisions, financially to make, and having this asset management policy in place to where to best spend our money, moving our community forward, and making those decisions based on the longevity and things of that nature of our infrastructure, et cetera. So I'm looking forward to using this policy in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Haas. Well said, and my apologies for cutting you off earlier. Council, any further debate? We have a motion on the floor. And seeing none, I will call to question that council approve the amended asset management policy DS 6100 as presented. Council, all those in favor? That was passed unanimously. Anything further for this action item, council? And seeing none, we will move on to action item number 4 for this evening. Town of Hinton Safety Code Services. CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. At the March 24th Standing Committee meeting, administration presented a report regarding potential accreditation of the Town of Hinton to provide safety code services. The process includes preparation of an application form, completion of a quality management plan, and payment of a fee prior to approval. Benefits of becoming an accredited municipality would include additional revenue, ease of permitting process as residents and businesses would be able to obtain all required permits in one location at the town office, as well as improved record keeping through the tracking and monitoring of development and safety permits. This can be achieved with current staffing levels, where the town provides the administrative function and the inspections carried out are through a third-party contract. The recommended actions for this item are that council approves the town of Hinton becoming an accredited municipality for safety code services, and that council approves the town of Hinton establishing an administrative function, permit sales, and file accreditation that has all inspections and all disciplines performed through a contract accredited agency. Again, Mr. Vanna and the administration are welcome any questions or comments you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, CAO Olson. Council, any questions? Councilor Magoon?
Yes, Your Worship. I'd like to start by making the motion that council approves the town of Hinton becoming an accredited municipality for safety code services, and I'd also like to speak to that if that's all right.
Okay.
Thank you. Honestly, I just really am very appreciative to the work of administration on this. I think what's key here is that really we're getting, I guess, two key elements that are going to benefit the community. The first is the fact that we're going to be offering safety code services, which is really an essential function for the community and development. And secondly, that it's done in a way that, you know, we're anticipating that this is going to generate revenue. So for myself, that's a win-win. And I appreciate the work that's been done by administration on making this happen. That's it.
Thank you, Councilor Magoon. Council, we have a motion on the floor. Councilor Hawes.
Yeah, I'd just like to also add, I echo to what Councilor Magoon said, but also that this is something the community I've heard a lot of over the number of years, that why aren't we accredited and have those abilities to be more forthright getting those inspections and things like that done. So I think this is a great move forward for our community. And like Councilor Magoon said, it also brings another stream of revenue into our community. So it's fantastic. Thank you, administration.
Thank you, Councilor Hawes. Council, any further debate or questions? Seeing none, I will call to question. Does that council approve of the town of Hinton becoming an accredited municipality for safety codes services? Council, all those in favor? That was passed unanimously. Thank you. Council, I would entertain another motion or any questions. Councilor Hawes.
I'd like to make the motion that committee recommend council, direction that committee council recommends proceed with the implementing safety codes service delivery model number 1, wherein the town of Hinton establishes an administrative function for permit sales and file administration, but has all inspections and all disciplines performed through a contract with an accredited agency. Thank you.
My apologies.
Oh,
that may have, unless you want to make that motion, but I think that was under background. Correct?
Oh, I'm sorry. I am in the wrong spot. My apologies. Oh, no, my apologies. I realized, sorry. No motion.
Okay, no, so you'd like to rescind that motion?
Yeah, I'll rescind it. Sorry. I thought there was 2 we were supposed to make, so my apologies.
No worries. Any issues with rescinding that motion, council? None. Councilor Magoon?
Yeah, I'd rather let Councillor Hawes make it because I think initially that was his intention. But on page 130 of 214, I think the second motion that he was looking for is right below recommended action. It begins that council approves the town of Hinton establishing.
Thank you for that, Councilor Magoon. Councilor Hawes, would you like to make a motion?
Well, yeah, because I remember we had, if I may, sorry, but we had a few different, and Mr. Vanna, you can maybe, or C.A. Olson, there was a few different options, different models, and I believe that was the model 1 that seemed to be the most recommended, and I was hoping that the first motion was to go on, but to make the motion to proceed with implementing that delivery model 1. Is that, or is the first motion enough?
Mr. Vanna?
Your Worship, the second motion reads that council approves the town of Hinton establishing an administrative function for permit sales and file administration, but has all inspections and all disciplines performed through a contract with an accredited agency.
Okay. So is there a prepared motion there, Wendy?
If I may, it's on page 130.
Okay. I'm trying to find it, so that's where I'm.
It's on the screen now also.
Okay, I don't have it.
Okay. So for the sake of technical difficulties, if I could ask another councilor to put forward
Yeah, that's
Councilor
perfect.
Sorry, I just had to unmute the mic there. Yeah, I'd like to make the motion that council approves the town of Hinton establishing an administrative function for permit sales and file administration, but has all inspections in all disciplines performed through a contract with an accredited agency.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Council, we have a motion on the floor. Any further debate or questions? Councillor Nelson.
Now, my question, it's referred to that we can do it internally with the staff that we currently have. Is that expected to be something ongoing? We've heard a lot over the past months that every department is at capacity and can't take on any new functions. So I just want to make sure that we're not adding a function now and then having to add staff in future budget times or potentially partway through this year.
CEO Olson.
Thank you, Worship. I'll let Mr. Bennett.
Your worship, in terms of our staffing, I believe through the amount of staff that we currently have on board is the right level, and we can perform this function. This is largely an administrative function where we're already meeting with customers that come to the desk. We're already issuing permits, and so this is the next logical step. We also have a tracking system that we would input into an existing tracking system. So it's not that we're creating more work for ourselves. What we're doing is sort of streamlining the outside world and how it deals with safety codes versus what we're doing already internally. And in some cases, we're already duplicating that function because we're helping people through that process when they come to the town of Hinton.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Vanna, thank you, Councillor Nelson. Council, anything further? Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, there was one question I had. It's relatively minor. What would our anticipated date that this process might be starting to go live, if you will, for lack of a better term?
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, I'll look to Mr. Bennett.
Your Worship, our anticipation is that council makes the motion today. Tomorrow, we're meeting with our consultant to finalize the documents, and we'll send those off to Safety Codes Council right away. And it's probably a couple of months. It's probably the June or July where we would be actively doing that. Our next step is also then to, once we have the paperwork done, then to go out for bids to have a safety code contractor come and work for us. And so once we have that in place, then we'll have all the pieces in place.
Thank you, Mr. Vanna. Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Council, any further questions, debate? And seeing none, I'll call to question that council approves the town of Hinton establishing an administrative function for permit sales and file administration, but has all inspections and all disciplines performed through a contract with an accredited agency. Council, all those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Council, anything further for action item number 4? And seeing none, thank you. And we'll move to action item number 5, 2020 Regional Assessment Review Board appointment, CAO.
Thank you, Mayor Michaels. The Regional Assessment Review Board, consisting of partner municipalities from Jasper, Edson, and Hinton, through Bylaw 1123, the Regional Assessment Review Board bylaw states that on a rotating basis, municipalities must appoint a designated chair and designated clerk. Hinton will provide these positions for 2020. In the fall of 2019, Council appointed board members Nigel Knight and Lee Beamish, and the board clerk Terry Williams. Recommended actions tonight are that Council appoint Nigel Knight as the designated chair for the West Yellowhead Regional Assessment Review Board for a 1-year term starting April 21st, 2020, and that the designated chair's remuneration and expenses follow the Town of Hinton's remuneration policy, DL 1103. The second recommended action is that Council appoint Terry Williams as the designated clerk for the West Yellowhead Regional Assessment Review Board for a one-year term starting April 21st, 2020. Ms. Williams is also present via Zoom to assist in answering any questions that you might have on this item.
Thank you, CEO Olson. Council, any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion. Councillor Nelson.
I'd like to move that council appoint Nigel Knight as the designated chair for the West Yellowhead Regional Assessment Review Board for a one-year term starting April 21st, 2020, and that the designated chair's remuneration expenses follow the Town of Hinton Council Remuneration Policy CL 1103. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Council, we have a motion on the floor. Any debate? Seeing none, I'll simply call to question. All those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Council, I would entertain another motion. That is Council. Councillor Law.
And I would move that council appoint Terry Williams as the designated clerk for the West Yellowhead Regional Assessment Review Board for a one-year term starting April 21st, 2020.
Thank you, Councillor Law. Council, again, we have a motion on the floor. Debate. And seeing none, I'll call to question. All those in favor? That was passed unanimously. Council, anything further for this action item? And seeing none, thank you for that. We move on to action item number 6 for this evening. Tax rate bylaw 1145 and supplementary bylaw number 1146. CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the tax rate bylaw and supplementary tax bylaw are being presented tonight to Council. The tax rate bylaw budget was presented to and approved by Council on March 17th. The tax rate bylaw is required to generate general municipal taxation approved in that budget, as well as collect the education property tax levy and the Evergreen Foundation levy. For this item tonight, the recommended action is to provide all 3 readings of the bylaw. I'll move into the supplementary assessment bylaw intro, and then we can move back and approach each of these individually. So the supplementary assessment bylaw is also before Council tonight for adoption and incorporates 2 components: the authorization for the town to provide assessments on new improvements completed, occupied, or used during the 2019 tax year, and authorization for the properties listed on the supplementary assessment roll taxed at the current year's tax bylaw rate. So the recommended action for this bylaw as well tonight is to provide all 3 readings. Administration, including Ms. Scott, are present tonight to answer any questions that you might have. And we can start with the tax rate bylaw and then move to supplementary assessment bylaw.
Thank you, CEO. Council, any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion for it. Councillor Nelson.
I'd like to move that council give first reading of tax rate bylaw 1145. And with that motion, I did have one relatively trivial question, but what is CSRD? It's on page 147 of 214, and it's not referenced anywhere else. And I did a quick Google search, and I just don't know what it is. It's beside, it says ASSF and CSRD. I know what ASSF is.
Oh, sorry, CEO Olson.
Sorry, Councillor Nelson, which page was that on?
147 of 214. It's with where the school part is.
I'm unsure of what that, apologies of what that acronym stands for. Ms. Fox, is that something that you can clarify for us?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Olson, through to council. Actually, it is something that has been carried forward on the bylaw. And at this exact moment, I know it's to do with the school tax. As we are going through this, I will try and come back to that with a good answer. I don't have it right now, sorry.
All right, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson, Ms. Foxy Olson. Council, anything further? We do have a motion on the floor. Councillor Magoo.
Thank you, Your Worship. You know, I try to make a habit of this every tax year, just to remind those people who might be watching council or following up on this, is that we're responsible for collecting, of course, not only our own taxes through municipal levies, but also the educational property tax levy and the Evergreens levy. So it's important for folks to understand that it's not simply the town, that these sort of three levies are combined, and so not to be surprised by that, and to understand that those are different items that end up almost looking like one.
Thank you for that, Councillor Magoo, and for that clarity on that. Council, anything further? And seeing none, I'll call the question that council give first reading of tax rate bylaw 1145. Council, all those in, Councillor Haas, my apologies. Oh, your hand. Oh, you're voting early. That doesn't count for 2 votes. I'll call the question that council give first reading for tax rate bylaw 1145. Council, all those in favor? That was passed unanimously. Council, I would entertain another motion. Councillor Stashik.
I'd like to move that council give second reading of tax rate bylaw number 1145.
Thank you, Councillor Stashik. Council, we have a motion on the floor. Any debate? Seeing none, I'll call the question that council gives second reading of tax rate bylaw 1145. Council, all those in favor? That is passed unanimously. Thank you. I would entertain another motion if that is the will of the council. Councillor Haas.
I'd like to make the motion that council give unanimous consent for third reading of tax rate bylaw number 1145.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. We have a motion on the floor. I have Councillor Nelson.
I will be voting against this. Simply, it's been 4 days since we've seen the seen our finalized budget for the first time, and we just got detailed capital yesterday. So I'm just not, 4 days for me isn't enough to have gone through everything to be comfortable with it to give third and final reading. So I'll be voting against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. I guess my question to administration is, any effects or issues with passing this at the next regular council meeting?
Thank you, Your Worship. It will delay preparation of the tax rate and the tax notices that go out to the community. I'll look to Ms. Fox if she would like to add anything as well, but generally we send out tax notices mid-May, and with the next regular being May 5th to come forward, it might pose a bit of a restriction to that time. Ms. Fox, is there anything that you would like to add as far as an impact?
Fox?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Michaels, through to council. You'll have to bear with me just a little bit. It seems everybody's on the internet at this time, and everything I'm trying to do is freezing on my computer. However, what I would say is that the tax rate bylaw itself is generated from a number that council approved in the budget. The budget itself, let me just bring it up here. So the overall budget is made up of revenues that come from many different sources, one of them being from municipal taxes. That number that was approved in the budget and that is generating the tax rates required hasn't changed. Very easily, you can go to the operating budget that's presented in the budget package and see that that net municipal tax number has not changed. Just to give a bit of assurance there that the tax rate bylaw itself will not change the budget, nor will the budget change the tax rate bylaw at this point because it's already adopted. The numbers that we need from taxes don't change. The motion that was made to approve the budget put forward also incorporates the changes that were required based on council. So I can see that some of council might want time to look through the budget. However, I know that that will not impact this tax rate bylaw at this point. So in saying that, if you want to put the adoption of the tax rate bylaw off for a couple weeks, what it does is it pushes out the time it takes for us to calculate the taxes and then the timing of the tax invoice going out to the public. Typically, we try and have that out on May 15th. Part of the issue is that we've deferred, we've offered a deferral program, which is going to cause the town cash flow issues. So we don't want to hold up people being able to pay their taxes who actually want to pay their taxes and don't want to defer, because that's going to help us access the required amount of cash that the town needs to operate, which right now is a concern. That's the only thing I would say. It would delay the tax invoice going out to the public.
Thank you for that, Ms. Olson, Councilor Nelson. Council, any further questions, debate? And if not, I will call the question that council give unanimous consent to third reading of tax rate bylaw 1145. Council, all those in favor? Opposed? That was not carried, 6-1. Councilor Magoo.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to make the motion that council give first reading of supplementary assessments bylaw number 1146.
Thank you, Councilor Magoo. Council, we have a motion on the floor. Any debate, questions for administration? And seeing none, I'll call the question that council give first reading of supplementary assessments bylaw 1146. Council, all those in favor? That was passed unanimously. Council, I would entertain another motion or questions. Councilor Nelson.
I'd like to move that council give second reading of supplementary assessments bylaw 1146.
Thank you, Councilor Nelson. Council, we have a motion on the floor. Any debate? And seeing none, I'll call the question that council give second reading of supplementary assessment bylaw 1146. Council, all those in favor? That was also passed unanimously. I would entertain another motion of council. Councilor Waugh.
I would move that council give unanimous consent for third reading of supplementary assessments bylaw number 1146.
Thank you, Councilor Waugh. Council, we have a motion on the floor for unanimous consent. Council, any debate or questions for administration? And seeing none, I'll call the question that council give unanimous consent for third reading of supplementary assessment bylaw 1146. Council, all those in favor? That is passed unanimously. And with that, I would entertain another motion. Councilor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council give third reading of supplementary assessments bylaw 1146.
Thank you, Councilor Race. Again, council, we have a motion on the floor. Any debate, questions? And seeing none, I will call the question that council gives third reading of supplementary assessment of bylaw 1146. Council, all those in favor? That was passed unanimously. Council, anything further for this action item? Right. If not, thank you, Ms. Olson, Ms. Fox. And that will bring us to our last action item for this evening. Waste rate bylaw number 933-4 CAO Olson.
Thank you, Mayor Michaels. Through the 2020 budget process, a 5% commercial waste increase was approved to bring the town closer to cost recovery for this service. If the annual budget is approved with revised rates, the waste rate bylaw must be amended to reflect new rates. A recommended action for the waste rate bylaw tonight is to provide all three readings. Mr. Hawk and Mr. Voloshin are in attendance tonight by Zoom and by room as well to answer any questions that council may have on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, CAO Olson. Council, any questions, comments? Council Race.
Could I get a page number on the agenda for this item?
205. Anything further, Council Race? Council, any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion. Councilor Nelson.
I'd like to move that council give waste rate bylaw 933-4 first reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Nelson. We have a motion on the floor. Council, any debate or questions for administration? And seeing none, I'll call the question that council give waste rate bylaw 933-4 first reading. Council, all those in favor? That is passed unanimously. Council, I would entertain another motion. Councilor Watt.
I would move that council give waste rate bylaw number 933-4 second reading.
Thank you, Councilor Watt. Once again, we have a motion on the floor. Debate. Question. And seeing none, I'll call the question that council give waste rate bylaw 933-4 second reading. Council, all those in favor? That is passed unanimously. Council, I would entertain another motion if that is the will. Councilor Hawes.
I'd like to move that council give waste rate bylaw number 933-4 unanimous consent for third reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hawes. Council, we have a motion on the floor for unanimous consent for this evening. Any debate or questions? And seeing none, I'll call the question that council give waste rate bylaw 933-4 unanimous consent for third reading. Council, all those in favor? That also passed unanimously. And I would entertain another motion. Councilor Race.
I move the council give waste rate bylaw number 933-4 third reading.
Thank you, Councilor Race. Council, we have a motion on the floor. Any debate or question? Seeing none, I'll call the question that council give waste rate bylaw 933-4 third reading. Council, all those in favor? That is passed unanimously. Anything further for this action item, council? Seeing none, that will do it for our action items for this evening. That'll bring us to our information items. 12.7 million Canadian volunteers give their time to help others, contributing close to 2 billion volunteer hours per year. Volunteers in Hinton mentor our children, feed our hungry, comfort our lonely, beautify our green spaces, and fundraise for our charitable organizations. And Hinton volunteers are young, old, families, workers, retirees, men and women of all ages and backgrounds. The collective result of the work done by our town's volunteers is that Hinton is a more desirable place to live. And coaches, mentors, parades, music festivals, community dinners, tournaments, food, toy, bottle drives, environmental cleanups, boards of directors, health promotion, live theater, musical performance, parent councils, bike trails, fun runs, cultural events, neighborhood watch, caregivers, and organizations in Hinton that rely on volunteers include such fundamental organizations as the Royal Canadian Legion, Hinton Healthcare Foundation, Hinton Rotary Club, Kin Club, Resident Care Foundation, Hinton United Way, churches, Share Shop, Food Bank, SPCA, Bridges, Health, Friendship Center, Hinton Search and Rescue, Community Greenhouse, Hinton Indoor Playground. And I, Marcel Michaels, Mayor of Hinton, do hereby proclaim April 19th to the 25th of 2020 as National Volunteer Week and urge my fellow citizens to recognize the crucial role played by volunteers in our community. And if I may add, if you see a volunteer, please thank them. They are truly the backbone to any community. In Hinton, we are extremely strong. There's many people that we know that go above and beyond what someone can do in order to make sure that any cracks, any issues in our community that is missing is there for people who are vulnerable, to those who just need certain amenities. So thank you very much to every volunteer in our community. And with that, on information items, I would entertain a motion from council. Councillor Hawes.
I'd like to make the motion that council accept information packages number 1 and number 2 for April 21st, 2020.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Council, we have a motion on the floor. Any debate, questions regarding that? Seeing none, I'll call to question. All those in favor? That is passed unanimously. And that will bring us to our reports. And tonight I will start on the screen from my top left. Councillor Hawes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, not too much to report. I do have a library board meeting coming up next week. So it's our first meeting. We're going to do it electronically, of course, but our first meeting since our closure to see how things are going with our online stuff and how they continue to deal with this situation with the closure and all those things. Other than that, I sent an email, but I just wanted to extend again gratitude towards the town itself, specifically to CA Olson and the EOC team, and specifically to I'm guessing, I'm not sure which department, infrastructure, but we needed some tents for some health for the healthcare center, and extremely helpful. Went above and beyond to be very helpful to the staff. Getting ready for some of that work they need to do in the elements outside. So thank you very much for that. And other than that, I have nothing else to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not a huge amount to report. Most committees have been pretty quiet. Outside of Community Futures, we've been having pretty regular, relatively casual meetings, just to kind of keep up to date. But there's some important information to share in that Community Futures did receive some federal funding. So Community Futures is currently working with the Community Futures Network of Alberta and the other offices in the province to establish eligibility requirements and application processes for lending the new money that they've received. Clients in Hinton and the West Yellowhead are encouraged to contact Nancy or Tim at Community Futures West Yellowhead office to find out what is available for them to apply for with the Government of Canada. And as soon as they're able to lend money to business in the West Yellowhead, they will let everybody know. So really exciting. I forget the number, but it was something in the range of $287 million to Community Futures across the country. And hopefully strategic investments like that will help kickstart things as we figure our way out of this. So it's very exciting, and hats off to all the work that Community Futures does. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson, and thank you to Community Futures. Great news to hear. With that, Councillor Wall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With regards to committees, SEAC was getting ready to launch public feedback sessions at the start of April, but obviously those have been postponed for now. With regards, just following up on what Councillor Nelson said about Community Futures, they also have they did a business survey through part of April, just to get a sense of what's going on with local businesses. Don't want to go too much into the details. The results are available on the website. 81 responses in Hinton. Obviously some dire news for some, but also some surprisingly positive results there as well. Surprising how many people are up and going still. So at least based on the results they received. And that is about all I have.
Thank you, Councillor Wah. That brings me to Councillor Eustachian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Only official committee meeting that I've had in the last couple of weeks was a Zoom meeting of the Hinton Regional Economic Development Coalition. Wasn't really much of an agenda for that meeting. It was more just a roundtable to kind of discuss what's going on in the community. And obviously the talk centered around the effect that COVID-19 is having on our local economy and maybe some issues that we'll be facing moving forward coming out of this. No real news to report coming out of that meeting though. And other than that, I have no scheduled committee meetings coming up. So just a wish for everyone to stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That brings me to Councillor Race.
I wish I had a lot to report, but I don't, sir. I have nothing to report.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Councillor Magoo.
Thank you, Your Worship. Really, the only update from committee meetings is the golf board. Both our director of the course, Mr. Kyle Crawford, is working hand in hand with Heather Way from the town. I'm not going to spoil it, but they've got a great presentation coming to council. They've been doing a lot of hard work on it, trying to get it ready. As you can imagine, though, that's impacted by the fact that we are dealing with closed golf courses presently. The information you get may change, you know, as that information sort of unravels from the province. If our health ministers make the, you know, determine that it's appropriate and safe to open courses, that potentially could have some impacts, but you're going to get a really great presentation. So I don't want to steal anybody's thunder by sneaking you too much information.
Thank you, Councillor Magoo. And with that, for myself, I have a waste meeting tomorrow. Perhaps next week we will get more information on that. I do want to take a quick moment and thank our administrative team. The last month has been extremely upside down, I think, for everyone. In considering a big agenda tonight, a lot of work has been done on things that are almost secondary for what we're dealing with. So I do want to thank every single staff in our organization, our leadership. I could just imagine the stress. I'm not able to see them. They put a gate in between them and I during the day. But I hear a lot of people. Well, not a lot, not too many. They social distance, I'm sure. But honestly, on behalf of council and really the community, thank you for dealing with was an already full plate and dealing with the pandemic. We appreciate your hard work in the last while. So continue on, and if there's anything you need from us, let us know. But a sincere thank you to all of you. Lastly, I do want to quickly just mention our thoughts and prayers for our brothers and sisters out east in Halifax. And I think we all know what transpired there, and we're thinking about them. But more importantly, to thank our RCMP, and I'll extend that even further, whether it's our firefighters, EMS, all kinds of people put their lives on the line for duty. All lives are equal, but it's a little bit different when you lose a life, you know, protecting other people. So we're fortunate here that event did not happen here. So let's take a moment, thank those who protect us, and we never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So let's appreciate today. Thoughts and prayers out east, and thoughts and prayers for those who continue to risk their lives for us in our community. Thank you very much for that. And with that, that's all for me, and I will hand it over to our Chief Administrative Officer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one item from me tonight. This afternoon, a Civic Send email went out regarding provincial approval for the reopening of Hinton Kids for Success to provide childcare for essential service workers who are struggling to find care for their little ones. The approval is for up to 24 kids, with only 10 children allowed at any location at any time. So 3 locations have been selected in our town buildings to provide that service. This is a fee-for-service arrangement on a first-come, first-served basis for children aged 5 to 12. Information is on our website. Registration beginning tomorrow with noon, and the start date for care will be Monday, April 27th. So that's good news for our essential service workers that may be struggling in that regard. So, as well, I just want to echo the mayor's thanks to our town staff, their support, their professionalism, ability to make adjustments to their work, their workspaces, their hours, their availability, their budget, you name it. I'm very appreciative myself at the support that they're providing, and we couldn't do it without them. So I just wanted to echo that thanks because I'm very grateful to that.
Thank you, Cedar Olson. That brings us to administrative inquiries for tonight. Council, are there any? Okay, that brings us to notices of motion. Any notices of motion, Council? And seeing none, I will entertain a motion to go in camera with a 5-minute break. Council Magoo.
I'd like to move that we go in camera following a 5-minute break.
Thank you, Councilor Magoo. Council, all those in favor? Thank you very much, everyone.
Bye, you guys.
You stay.
Joanne, you stay on.
Maybe we should say bye. Thank you.
So,
Laura, I love your decor.